MCs of all time, Public Enemy, a group that I felt spoke directly to me at that point in my life, 1986. I was 16 years old. Yeah, I'm old. Yeah, but Chuck D said every brother ain't a brother. He said that in 1989, but Chuck D public wouldn't make a difference. Rambling, but the reason I call it that is this: I really want to question some of the brothers in Major League Baseball, some of the brothers in the NFL, and some of the brothers in the NBA. Because a year ago, the Milwaukee Bucks started off piss poor. And the first thing they did was get rid of Jason Kidd. And the African freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, stepped up and called Jason Kidd and said, hey, man, if you want me to make act a fool, I will, to get you your job back. Because he knew he was the linchpin. He was the straw that stirred the drink in regards to Milwaukee basketball. Y'all not going to fire my guy. Do these brothers work hard enough to maintain employment for these black coaches is the question. See, Giannis is not from America, so he just saw a brother in distress, a dude who he knew was giving him the best that he had, and he knew Jason Kidd was challenging him and attempting to make him the best player possible. Stephen A. Smith fell out a couple years ago because he accused Glenn Robinson of not paying the proper respect to Stu Jackson. One of the few times in the history of the known planet Earth that I agree, I almost sided with Stephen A. And I just wonder, man, because then you get these, you got Mike Tomlin. You ever notice no player questions his X and O. Nobody questions anything. Now him and James Harrison got an issue, and that's cool. And that leads into part B of every brother ain't a brother. But I just wonder, I'm a Parcells guy. Why ain't nobody no damn Tomlin guys? You got Ryan Clark and those guys stepping up for him, but I just don't like the fact that a lot of these brothers lose their jobs while other brothers stand around and act like, hey man, well he just lost his job. But then y'all want to stand around and microanalyze and micromanage every single solitary thing in regards to their teams. Mike Tomlin just happens to be at the top of the food chain in regards to coaches. The reason I'm talking about him is, you got Terry Bradshaw calling this man a cheerleader. You got other people questioning his leadership abilities. His team is undisciplined. Well, when I first started watching football and for the entirety of my being aware of what goes on a football team, Melvin in the building, thank you, brother. While I've been paying attention to the National Football League, if you have a team that is top 5 in offense and you have a team that is top 10 in defense, you are a Super Bowl contender. That's not an undisciplined team. You can always point to the exception to the rule. Like every time the Raiders have won the Super Bowl, they've led the NFL in penalties. But you never heard of John Madden being out of control. You never heard of his inability to control things. You never heard anything about Tom Flores being out of control. So why is it that Mike Tomlinson is out of control? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers won 8 games this year. 8 or 9 games this year. Let's look at the reality of the situation. One of the losses with the Pittsburgh Steelers was a kicker slipping in Oakland on one of the worst fields in all of football. Slipped in Oakland. Another loss came at the hands of Juju Smith-Schuster. When they were marching down the field, he dropped the ball. The very first game of the season they lost because it was rain and windy and their kicker missed field goals. And Big Ben in Denver threw an interception in the red zone at the goal line. So fumbling has nothing to do with your coach. That's part of the game. Missing a field goal, the greatest coaches in the history of the world have had field goal kickers miss kicks. And Big Ben throwing an interception, seeing how looking at his stellar career, I'm saying that facetiously because y'all know how I feel about Big Ben. Looking at his Hall of Fame caliber career, and there's no doubt he'll be in the Hall of Fame, Big Ben is prone to throw interceptions. You know, they cover up Big Ben's interceptions by saying he's a gunslinger. The same way they used to cover up Brett Favre's undubious mistakes. Dubious mistakes, excuse me. So, what the hell does that have to do with the coach? You can say, oh man, well, Bill Belichick, his teams never fumble. Yes, they do. But we found out why Bill Belichick teams don't fumble, because they deflating the fucking footballs. And a softer ball is easier to grip, and if you got a better grip, you were less likely to fumble a football. So, this is why I'm saying, this is why I wonder how many of these dudes who stepping out, the Chris Carters, the Stephen A. Smiths, and all these other dudes of the world, saying, hey man, maybe it is time, maybe he don't have control, maybe he need to tighten the reins. And then since people in our community always like to point out what other communities do that we don't, I don't see too many white boys on TV talking about the coaches. Love them, hate them, or indifferent. I don't see too many white boys doing that. So you talk, and then you got these same dudes talking about, man, there do need to be more faces like us. Yeah, but that means you need to be going balls to the wall when you see one of these dudes on the sideline and making sure he keep his job. That's just. And the second part of that is the Antonio Brown, James Harrison portion of it. Antonio Brown used the word Uncle Tom this week while describing Ryan Clark. Now, whether Antonio Brown is an ass or not, we'll never know. But we keep hearing reports that Antonio Brown is acting as if he's a child. He's not showing up for work. He's doing a whole lot of stuff to disrupt the team. So when you think about Antonio Brown, you're forced to ask the question, hey bro, are they telling the truth about you? This is the second time this season Antonio Brown has allegedly not shown up to practice, and then he thought he was going to play. But see, me, if I'm Mike Tomlin on the sidebar, I'd have let his ass dress. My man, Big Illinois, speaking exactly what we talked about earlier. He was acting like a little spoiled white girl. But but then they go on, him and James Harrison go on and mock the brother, and then he calls Ryan Clark, who calls him out on his punk ass behavior, Uncle Tom. What I'm gonna do is give folks, I know a lot of y'all are people who are well read. But for those who don't read a lot, I'm going to give you a small history lesson. When you call somebody Uncle Tom, what you really, in essence, are attempting to say is that this dude kowtows to the man. He's an ass kisser. He'll do what he had to do to stay in good graces with the dominant society. And if that's throwing another brother under the bench, under the truck, a bus, that's what he'll do. But guess what? For those of us who actually read the story, Uncle Tom was a hero in that fucking story. You dumbass. Uncle Tom, contrary to popular belief, I'm going to say it again, so just in case somebody just joining will understand what the hell what you should be saying. Uncle Tom was the fucking hero in that story, Uncle Tom's Cabin. Uncle Tom, for dumbasses who read the story, who just read the words, you missed it. We all have a slot in life. Uncle Tom's slot in life was to make sure slaves had the best possible life you can have as a slave. And what I mean by that is this. If H-Rap, Big Illinois, and Uncle Tom go out into the fields and they say, everybody better have 150 pounds of cotton when y'all come back, or you know what's going to happen. Uncle Tom, I come back with 125, and Big Illinois come back with 125. Uncle Tom has picked 200 pounds and given us 25 pounds apiece. Another thing Uncle Tom would do is, whenever slaves would speak freely about having a revolt or running away, the masters, or the people who controlled the plantation, because I'm not going to call these people the masters, the people who own and control the plantations, they would come to Uncle Tom and say, Tom, what are they doing? And Uncle Tom would say, I have no idea. Even though he knew the exact time, date, and they would say, come on, Tom, leave with us, man. It's time for you to go. Tom understood it was his job to protect people who were physically less than, or whatever the case was. So in the event that you became strong or righteous enough to run, you would have the ability to. If you disagree with what I'm saying, read the story and you'll find out the dude who was the overseer by the name of Simon Legree, when they got two other slaves by the name of Sambo and Gumbo, to beat Uncle Tom to death because he would not tell about the runaway slaves. So when you call someone an Uncle Tom who sacrificed his life for so other slaves, other people who are prisoners of war, because that's what they were, people who were held against their will for indentured servitude purposes, you're actually giving them a compliment, dumbass. If you want to insult someone and say they ass kisses, call them a Sambo or a Gumbo. Or simply read a fucking book and call or take it to the street and call them a pussy. So when you call somebody Uncle Tom, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Another fun fact, don't be ashamed to eat watermelon. When people were released from permanent indentured servitude, they refused to eat the slop that we call soul food today. And what they did was started eating watermelon. Ironically, the watermelon is red, black, and green. But because it was a protest, the dominant society has taken hold to that story as well and turned it against you. Because watermelon has everything, a lot of the nutrients that you need to live a safe and healthy life. But back to the sports talk. So when you got jackasses like Antonio Brown calling brothers Uncle Toms, what you're really doing is using what you believe is an insult, and you're acting as if in accordance to the insult that you're trying to help people out with. Because I'm sure if you had an issue with Ryan Clark, seeing how he's a former employee of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you could have got his phone number and cussed him out behind closed doors. You didn't show up for work, bruh. You got an issue with Ben Roethlisberger. You acted out, and he called it. It's his job to call it out. It's not his job to protect you and or your legacy. So please miss me with that bullshit, Ryan Clark. Antonio Brown. And James Harrison, being an older cat, I'm really disappointed in you because you 40 years old, man, and you on Instagram acting like you're 16. And if James Harrison don't like what I'm saying, so fucking what? But it's just, I'm sick of this shit, man. This public cat fighting and shit like that. I get it, you have disagreements with people and you figure, hey man, he dissed me publicly, I'ma diss you publicly. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, be a man, meet that man, look that man in the eye and call him a chump. But, which, on the other end, I'm going to diss famed writer, what's his name? Peter King. Peter King pissed me off yesterday. Peter King, the All-Pro team came out yesterday, which is an actual honor, not the Pro Bowl, not the All-Star game, being All-Pro, where it's just the first team and the second team. That's an honor, but Peter King openly set the stage so people can hold Antonio Brown out of the Hall of Fame. He started the wheels churning on the TO talk when it comes to Antonio Brown. So Mr. Brown, if you don't stop acting a damn fool, you may be held out of the Hall of Fame indefinitely or longer than you're supposed to. Antonio Brown is on a Hall of Fame pace. And by Peter King coming out, who I've heard in NFL circles that he's extremely influential on getting you in or getting you held up out of the Hall of Fame. He publicly states, and nobody actually publicly lets you know who they voted for All-Pro, but he found it necessary to grandstand and say, due to Antonio Brown's behavior, I find it difficult to put him in the top 20 players at his position. And I also withheld my All-Pro vote I voted for him, but then I thought about it and I took it away. Now, Mr. King,